The phone call came on a Tuesday morning while I was reviewing grant applications in my office at the Alzheimer's Research Institute. Rachel, we need to talk about the wedding. My father's voice. Formal. Uncomfortable. The tone he used when delivering bad news he'd already decided was final. Okay, I said, putting down my pen. What about it? Margaret's family will be there. The Hendersons. Very prominent philanthropists. Major donors to medical research. They move in elite circles. I know who they are, Dad. Then you understand why this needs to go perfectly. I'm not sure what you're getting at. He cleared his throat. Rachel, I think it's best if you don't attend the wedding. Silence. I actually couldn't process the words for a moment. I'm sorry, what? It's nothing personal. Margaret's family are sophisticated people. Wealthy. Connected. They're funding several major initiatives across the country. I can't risk anything going wrong. And me attending your wedding would make something go wrong? You know how you can be. Awkward with wealthy people. You never know what to say at these events. You dress like you're going to a lab, not a social function. Margaret's family will have expectations. I leaned back in my chair. Looked at the wall of my office. Diplomas from Johns Hopkins Harvard Medical School, a PhD in neuroscience. Awards from the National Institutes of Health, the American Medical Association, the Alzheimer's Association. Photos with senators, Nobel laureates, and yes, philanthropists, including the Hendersons. Dad, I've met the Hendersons. I doubt that. I have dinner with Charles Henderson quarterly. His foundation funds my research. Silence on his end. What research? He finally asked. The Alzheimer's research I've been doing for 12 years. The research I've told you about at every family gathering. The research that's in clinical trials right now. You work at a university, Rachel. Teaching. I run the Alzheimer's Research Institute. We have a $620 million operating budget. The Henderson Foundation provides $80 million of that annually. Charles Henderson sits on my advisory board. More silence. That's not possible. It's very possible. In fact, I have a meeting with Charles on Thursday to discuss expanding our partnership. But apparently, I'm too awkward to attend your wedding to his daughter. Margaret is Charles Henderson's daughter? Stat. The Margaret Henderson you've been dating for 6 months. Daughter of Charles and Patricia Henderson. The same Hendersons who fund my Alzheimer's research, my clinical trials, and my neuroscience lab. I could hear him breathing. Processing. Why didn't you tell me? I did tell you. Multiple times. You said, that's nice. And changed the subject to talk about the golf club you joined or the car you bought. But you never said you knew the Hendersons specifically. Biz, you never asked, Dad. You decided I was an awkward professor who embarrassed you at social events. So you uninvited me to your own wedding. Rachel, I didn't know. Yes. That's the problem. You didn't know. You didn't ask. You assumed. And now you're marrying into a family that has personally invested over $400 million in my work across the past 8 years. I hung up. My assistant, Dr. Sarah Kim, knocked on my door. Everything okay? You sounded upset. My father just uninvited me to his wedding because he's afraid I'll embarrass him in front of the bride's family, who happen to fund our entire research program. Sarah's eyes went wide. Wait, your dad is marrying Margaret Henderson? The Margaret Henderson? Apparently so. Does he know you work with her family? He does now. Sarah started laughing. Oh my God. This is incredible. What are you going to do? Go to the wedding. But he uninvited you. And I'm uninviting myself. Charles Henderson would be devastated if he knew I was excluded from his daughter's wedding. Especially since he considers me family. This is going to be spectacular. That's one word for it. I'm Dr. Rachel Thompson, 43 years old, and I've been invisible to my family my entire life. My father, Robert Thompson, is a retired insurance executive. He made good money. Upper middle class. Comfortable. Proud of his country club membership and his luxury sedan. My mother died when I was 16. After that, it was just Dad and me. He wanted me to be normal. Pretty. Social. Everything I wasn't. I was smart. Obsessively so. Skipped 2 grades. Graduated high school at 16. Got a full scholarship to Johns Hopkins. Dad's response, college is fine, but don't forget you need to be marriageable. I got my bachelor's in 3 years. Masters in 2. MD/PhD in neuroscience in 6. By 27, I was Dr. Rachel Thompson with a medical degree and a doctorate in neuroscience. Dad asked when I was going to stop being a student and get a real job. I became a professor at Harvard Medical School. Started researching Alzheimer's disease. Published groundbreaking papers on protein aggregation and neural degeneration. At 31, I secured a $50 million grant from the National Institutes of Health. At 33, I founded the Alzheimer's Research Institute with backing from 3 major philanthropic foundations. At 35, our research led to a breakthrough in early detection of Alzheimer's. Published in Nature. Featured on 60 Minutes. Named one of Time magazine's 100 most influential people in health. Dad's response, "That's nice. Are you seeing anyone?" By 40, our institute had a $620 million operating budget. We employed 200 researchers. Ran clinical trials across 15 hospitals. Had patents on 3 diagnostic tools and 2 potential treatments. The Henderson Foundation became our largest donor. Charles Henderson, billionaire philanthropist, believed in our work. We had quarterly dinners. He called me for advice on medical philanthropy. Introduced me to other donors. His wife Patricia joined our advisory board. Their son Marcus toured our labs regularly. And apparently their daughter Margaret was now engaged to my father. Dad had mentioned dating someone new 6 months ago. Successful. Sophisticated. From a good family. He'd never mentioned her name. Never introduced us. Never thought I was important enough to include. And now he'd uninvited me to the wedding because I might embarrass him. Every Christmas, every birthday, every phone call I'd try to share my work. We're starting a new clinical trial for early-stage Alzheimer's treatment. That's nice, Rachel. Have you thought about online dating? We just received a $120 million grant from the Henderson Foundation. Good for you. I joined a new golf club. Very exclusive. We're presenting our findings at the World Health Summit in Geneva. Switzerland, how fancy. I'm getting a new Mercedes. Come see it sometime. He never came to my lab. Never attended my lectures. Never read my papers. When I won the National Medal of Science 2 years ago, presented by the President of the United States, I called to tell him. "That's wonderful, sweetie. I can't talk long, I have a tea time." He didn't ask what the medal was for. Didn't ask to see photos. Didn't congratulate me beyond that one sentence. But he'd called everyone he knew when he got promoted to VP of his insurance company 20 years ago. The pattern was clear. My accomplishments didn't fit his vision of success. I wasn't married. Didn't have kids. Didn't host dinner parties or join the junior league. I saved lives. Pioneered treatments. Changed medicine. But that wasn't what he valued. Charles Henderson made his fortune in tech. Sold his company for $4.2 billion in the late 90s. Spent the next 20 years giving it away strategically. Medical research. Education. Environmental conservation. Always focused. Always impactful. When I first approached the Henderson Foundation for funding 8 years ago, I expected a form rejection. Instead, Charles personally called me. "Dr. Thompson, I read your proposal 3 times. This is the most promising Alzheimer's research I've seen. Let's meet." We met for coffee. Talked for 4 hours. He asked brilliant questions. Challenged my assumptions. Understood both the science and the human impact. At the end he said, "I'm approving $50 million over 5 years. And I want quarterly updates. Not formal reports. Just dinner. You, me, Patricia. Let's build something meaningful." That was 8 years ago. The quarterly dinners continued. The funding grew. $50 million became $80 million annually. Charles and Patricia became mentors. Friends. The family I'd never had. Patricia, who'd lost her mother to Alzheimer's, understood the personal urgency of the work. She attended our fundraisers. Toured our labs. Introduced me to other philanthropists. Their son Marcus, a physician himself, collaborated on some of our research protocols. And their daughter Margaret worked in arts administration. I'd met her twice at family gatherings. Quiet. Intelligent. Passionate about museums and culture. Never mentioned she was dating anyone. Certainly never mentioned she was dating my father. I called Charles Henderson that evening. "Rachel, I was just thinking about you. Thursday's meeting is still on?" "Absolutely. But Charles, I need to ask you something." Anything. Your daughter Margaret is getting married soon? Yes. 3 weeks from Saturday. We're thrilled. Robert is a good man. Thought. Treats Margaret wonderfully. Robert Thompson is my father. Silence. Complete silence. Then, I'm sorry, Robert Thompson is your father? Yes. How did I not know this? Different last names. I use my mother's maiden name professionally. And my father and I aren't close. I've mentioned him over the years but never by name. Rachel, this is incredible. You're going to be Margaret's stepdaughter. About that. My father called today. He uninvited me to the wedding. He what? Said he couldn't risk anything going wrong. Said your family is too sophisticated. That I'm awkward with wealthy people and might embarrass him. I heard Patricia in the background. Charles, what's wrong? He put me on speaker. Patricia, Rachel's father is Robert. The Robert marrying Margaret. Patricia gasped. Rachel. This is wonderful. Wait, what's wonderful? Rachel's father uninvited her to the wedding because he's afraid she'll embarrass him in front of us. The silence that followed was different. Dangerous. He did what? Patricia's voice could have frozen nitrogen. Said I dress like I'm going to a lab. That I don't know how to talk to wealthy people. That I might make something go wrong. Rachel, Charles said carefully, do you want to come to the wedding? I do now. Then you're coming. As our guest. You'll sit at our table. Charles, I don't want to cause drama. Drama? Rachel, you've changed medicine. You've saved lives. You run a $620 million research institute that we're honored to support. And your father thinks you're an embarrassment. His voice was steel. You're coming to the wedding. And Robert is going to learn exactly who his daughter is. Patricia added, we're picking you up. You'll arrive with us. We'll make sure everyone knows who you are. This feels like revenge. This feels like justice, Charles corrected. See you Saturday. The next 2 weeks were normal. Research meetings. Clinical trial reviews. A symposium presentation. I didn't tell my team about the wedding drama. Kept working. Dad called 3 times. I didn't answer. He left voicemails. Rachel, we should talk. There's been a misunderstanding. Rachel, please call me back. This is important. Rachel, I'm getting married in 10 days. We need to discuss this. I deleted all 3 without responding. Thursday, I had my quarterly dinner with Charles and Patricia at their estate. Marcus joined us this time. So, Marcus said with a grin, I hear you're about to become my sister. Stepsister. Technically. This whole situation is wild. Dad told me the story. Your father really uninvited you. Word for word. Patricia shook her head. I've met Robert a dozen times. He's charming. Attentive to Margaret. But he's never once mentioned having a daughter. He doesn't talk about me. Doesn't understand my work. Doesn't value it. That's going to change on Saturday, Charles said firmly. I'm giving a toast at the reception. Plan to talk about Margaret and Robert. Now I'm also talking about you. Charles. Rachel, your family. More family than most people who share my blood. You've dedicated your life to work that honors my mother's memory. Patricia's mother. The work you do matters more than almost anything else I fund. Robert needs to understand that. What if this ruins Margaret's wedding? It won't, Patricia said. Margaret knows who you are. She's been reading about your work. She's excited to have you in the family. She just didn't realize you were Robert's daughter until we told her yesterday. What did she say? That she wished she'd known sooner. That she would have insisted you be included. And that her father uninviting you to avoid embarrassment is the most ironic thing she's ever heard. Marcus laughed. Margaret called me last night. Said, and I quote, Robert's daughter is literally the most accomplished person who'll be at this wedding and he's worried she'll embarrass him? The cognitive dissonance is staggering. I like Margaret, I said. She likes you too. And she's furious with Robert right now. As are we all. Charles raised his glass. To Saturday. And to family, the kind that actually shows up. We toasted. I bought a dress for the wedding. Not my usual style. Normally I wore practical clothes. Lab appropriate. Professional. Unremarkable. For this I went to a boutique Patricia recommended. Tried on a dozen dresses. Settled on midnight blue silk. Elegant. Sophisticated. Expensive. The kind of dress that said, I belong here. The saleswoman nodded approvingly. You look stunning. Special occasion. My father's wedding. He uninvited me because he thought I'd embarrass him in front of wealthy people. Her eyes widened. And you're going anyway? As the guest of the bride's family, who happened to fund my medical research. I love everything about this story. You're going to be the most interesting person there. That's the plan. Saturday arrived. Charles and Patricia picked me up at 2 p.m. Their car was a Bentley. Driver included. This was the life my father thought I couldn't navigate. You look beautiful, Patricia said as I slid into the back seat. Thank you. I'm nervous. Don't be. You're going to walk in there as exactly who you are. And let the chips fall where they may. The wedding was at a historic estate in Connecticut. Manicured gardens. String quartet. 200 guests in formal wear. We arrived fashionably late. Maiden entrance. The valet's eyes widened when he saw Charles Henderson. Everyone in philanthropic circles knew his face. We walked in together. Charles on one side of me, Patricia on the other. Like I belonged. Because I did. The wedding ceremony was outdoors. White chairs. Floral arbor. Magazine perfect. We were shown to the second row. Family seating. Dad was at the altar with the officiant. He saw us approaching. Saw Charles. Saw Patricia. Saw Marcus. Then saw me. His face went white. Then red. Then white again. Margaret appeared at the back of the aisle. Saw her family. Saw me. Smiled. Actually smiled. The ceremony was beautiful. Traditional. Heartfelt. Dad kept glancing at me. I kept looking straight ahead. When the officiant said, "You may kiss the bride," everyone applauded. Dad and Margaret walked down the aisle. He tried to catch my eye. I looked away. At the reception line, Margaret hugged her parents. Then turned to me. "Dr. Thompson. I'm so glad you're here." "Congratulations, Margaret. You look beautiful. Thank you for coming. I heard what happened. I'm sorry my fiancé, my husband, is an idiot." Dad overheard. "Margaret. Robert, we'll discuss this later. Right now, I want to welcome your daughter properly." He hugged me. Genuinely. Warmly. "I've been reading about your research. The early detection protocol you developed. It's remarkable. Thank you. My grandmother had Alzheimer's. If your protocol had existed then, it might have changed everything for our family. That's why I do the work." Dad was standing 3 feet away looking completely lost. Margaret turned to him. "Robert, your daughter is a genius. A literal genius. And you didn't think she belonged at our wedding?" "I didn't realize. We'll talk later." She moved on to greet other guests. Left Dad standing there. Charles clapped him on the shoulder. "Robert, we need to talk. But not now. Now we celebrate. Later, we discuss why you tried to exclude one of the most important people in my life from my daughter's wedding." Dad looked like he might be sick. The reception was in a massive tent. Crystal chandeliers. Live band. Open bar. We sat at the Henderson family table. Prime location. Center of the room. Dad and Margaret sat at the sweetheart table on the raised platform. I could see Dad watching me. Watching Charles. Watching the way other guests approached our table to greet the Hendersons. Senators. Theos. Other philanthropists. Everyone who was anyone in the Northeast elite. And they all knew Charles. Midway through dinner, a woman approached our table. Dr. Elizabeth Warren, Director of the National Institutes of Health. "Charles, Patricia, wonderful to see you." Then she saw me. "Rachel. I didn't know you'd be here." "Elizabeth, good to see you. Your latest paper on tau protein aggregation was brilliant. We're using it to restructure our entire Alzheimer's research funding strategy. I'm glad it was helpful." "Helpful? It's revolutionary." He turned to Charles. "You know you're funding the most important Alzheimer's research in the country, right?" "I know," Charles said proudly. "Rachel keeps us updated quarterly. She's too modest. What she's doing will change medicine. We're talking about a potential Nobel Prize in the next decade." I felt my face heat. "Elizabeth. I'm serious. The diagnostic tools alone are worth it. But if your treatment trials work, Rachel, you'll have cured Alzheimer's." Across the room I saw Dad's head snap toward our table. Elizabeth continued, oblivious. I'm recommending the NIH increase funding to your institute by $200 million over the next 5 years. You've earned it. That's incredibly generous. It's strategic. You're the best investment we can make. She moved on. Left our table buzzing. Patricia squeezed my hand. Nobel Prize. It's just speculation. Rachel, stop. Let yourself be proud. I was proud. I just never had anyone to be proud with. Till now. After dinner, the toasts began. Margaret's mother Patricia went first. Spoke beautifully about love, partnership, and joining families. Then Charles stood. Tapped his glass. I'm Charles Henderson, father of the bride. And I want to talk about family. The room quieted. Margaret found a good man in Robert. He's kind to her. Treats her with respect. Makes her laugh. I'm thrilled to welcome him to our family. Dad smiled. Relaxed slightly. But tonight I also want to acknowledge someone else joining our family. Someone extraordinary. Someone who's been part of our lives for 8 years but who we're only now learning is Robert's daughter. Dad's smile froze. Dr. Rachel Thompson is one of the foremost neuroscientists in the world. She runs the Alzheimer's Research Institute, which my family foundation has funded for nearly a decade. Her work has changed how we diagnose and treat Alzheimer's disease. She's saved countless lives. And she's done it with grace, brilliance, and absolute dedication. The room was silent. All eyes turning to find me. Rachel, would you stand? I stood. Felt 200 people looking at me. This remarkable woman, Charles continued, was uninvited to this wedding. Robert told her she might embarrass him in front of my family. That she didn't know how to behave around wealthy people. That she was too awkward for an event like this. Gasps. Actual gasps from the audience. Dad's face had gone gray. What Robert didn't know is that Rachel and I have dinner quarterly. That she's been to our home dozens of times. That my wife considers her family. That our foundation has invested over $400 million in her research. That she's one of the most respected medical researchers in America. He raised his glass. So I want to make something clear. Rachel Thompson is not an embarrassment. She's a treasure. He's an honor to know. And Robert, you should be on your knees thanking whatever cosmic force made this brilliant, compassionate, world-changing woman your daughter. The room erupted in applause. I stood there, tears streaming down my face as 200 strangers celebrated me. Charles wasn't done. To Rachel. Welcome to the family. The Henderson family. Where your work is valued, your brilliance is celebrated, and you will never, ever be made to feel less than the extraordinary person you are. To Rachel, the room echoed. I sat down. Patricia grabbed my hand. Marcus hugged me. And across the room, my father sat frozen at the sweetheart table, his new wife staring at him with an expression that could freeze fire. After the toast, people approached our table in waves. Scientists who'd read my papers. Philanthropists who'd heard of my work. Medical professionals who used our diagnostic protocols. Dr. Thompson, I had no idea you were Robert's daughter. Your research changed my mother's treatment plan. Can we schedule a meeting? Our foundation wants to support your work. I smiled. Thanked them. Exchanged cards. Dad watched from the sweetheart table. Didn't approach. Margaret did. She came to our table, dress trailing behind her. Rachel, can we talk? Just for a moment. Of course. We walked to a quiet corner of the tent. I'm so sorry, she said immediately. I had no idea Robert had uninvited you. I didn't even know he had a daughter until 3 weeks ago. He mentioned you once, said you were in education, and changed the subject. In education? That's what he said. Not that you were a renowned neuroscientist. Not that you ran a major research institute. Just, in education. That's about right. When my father told me who you were, I was horrified. I wanted to call you immediately, but Dad said he'd handle it. That you'd be here. That Robert needed to see the truth. Your father is protective. He loves you. They both do. They talk about you constantly. Rachel found a new protein marker. Rachel's clinical trial showed promising results. Rachel spoke at the World Health Summit. I knew exactly who you were before I knew you were Robert's daughter. I'm sorry this happened at your wedding. Don't be. This needed to happen. Robert needed to see who you actually are. What you've accomplished. And frankly, he needed the public accountability. He looks devastated. Good. He should be. Rachel, can I ask you something? Anything. Why did you come? After he uninvited you? You could have stayed away. Made him explain your absence. But you came anyway. I thought about it. Because I wanted to meet you. Because I wanted your family to know I valued their relationship. And because I was tired of being invisible. Margaret hugged me. You're not invisible anymore. An hour after Charles's toast, Dad approached our table. He looked smaller. Defeated. Older. Rachel, can we talk? I looked at Charles. He nodded. Dad and I walked outside. Found a quiet spot in the garden. I'm sorry, he said immediately. For which part? All of it. Uninviting you. Not knowing about your work. Not seeing you. You've had 43 years to see me, Dad. I know. I told you about my research. Every holiday. Every phone call. Every visit. You nodded and changed the subject. I didn't understand. You didn't try to understand. There's a difference. He sat on a bench. Put his head in his hands. When Charles made that toast, when everyone applauded, when I saw the way people looked at you, I realized I've been living next to greatness my entire life and I never noticed. I'm not great. I'm just good at my job. Rachel, you're curing Alzheimer's disease. The NIH director said you might win a Nobel Prize. You run a $620 million institute. My new in-laws have invested hundreds of millions of dollars in your work. That's not just being good at your job. That's changing the world. And you thought I was too awkward to attend your wedding. I was wrong. Spectacularly, humiliatingly wrong. I sat next to him. Why did you do it? Really? Because you intimidated me. You were always so smart. So focused. After your mother died, I didn't know how to connect with you. You lived in your head in your research. I couldn't relate. So you dismissed me. So I told myself you were just an academic. Not living in the real world. Not successful in ways that mattered. It was easier than admitting I had no idea how to be the father you deserved. You could have asked. About my work. My life. My research. Would you have told me? I tried to tell you for years, Dad. You just never listened. He was crying now. Quietly. Can you forgive me? I don't know. You didn't just miss one event. You missed my entire life. My MD graduation. My PhD defense. My first major grant. The founding of my institute. The NIH medal. All of it. You were there physically sometimes, but you were never actually present. I want to change that. Why? Because Charles Henderson embarrassed you? Because you realized I'm successful in ways you understand now? Or because you actually care about me? He didn't answer immediately. I don't know, he finally said. Maybe all three. But Rachel, I want to try. I want to know my daughter. The real one. Not the person I invented to make myself feel better about not understanding you. That's going to take time. I have time. I'm not going anywhere. Margaret might have other ideas after tonight. He laughed. She's furious. Said we're having a very long conversation tomorrow about family and respect and how I could have been so blind. She's smart. Like her new stepdaughter. We sat in silence for a few minutes. Finally I said, I'm willing to try. But Dad, you need to actually show up. Read my papers even if you don't understand them. Visit my lab. Ask about my work. Don't just nod and change the subject. I will. I promise. And Dad? I'm not going to make myself smaller to make you comfortable anymore. I'm a neuroscientist. I run a major research institute. I'm proud of my work. If that intimidates you, that's something you need to work through. I understand. Do you? Because for 43 years, you've wanted me to be someone else. Someone easier. Someone who fit your vision of what a daughter should be. I was wrong. Yes. You were. He stood. Offered his hand to help me up. I took it. We walked back to the reception together. The rest of the reception was surreal. People approached me constantly. Wanted to talk about research. Share stories about family members with Alzheimer's. Offer funding. By the end of the night, I had 17 business cards from potential donors. 6 from other medical researchers. 3 from pharmaceutical companies wanting to discuss partnerships. Charles found me at the bar. You okay? Overwhelmed. Good overwhelmed or bad overwhelmed? Good, I think. Dad and I talked. He apologized. We're going to try to build something real. That's all you can ask. Thank you, Charles. For the toast. For forcing this confrontation. For valuing me when my own family didn't. Rachel, you're not just valuable. You're irreplaceable. To medicine. To my family. To everyone whose life you'll save. He paused. You know Margaret wants you to be part of her life? Really part of it. She said that. She means it. So do Patricia and I. You're not just my daughter's stepdaughter. You're our daughter too if you'll have us. I started crying again. I'd like that. Good. Family dinner next Sunday. Your father and Margaret will be there. We'll start building something real. All of us. Patricia appeared. Are you stealing my new daughter? Just claiming her, Charles said. She's ours now. We're never letting her go. They hugged me. Both of them. Held me like I was precious. For the first time in my life I felt like I belonged somewhere. Monday morning I was back in my lab. Running protocols. Reviewing data. Living my normal life. Except my phone kept buzzing. 3 emails from Dad. Thinking about yesterday. Still processing. Thank you for talking to me. Margaret showed me some of your published papers. I don't understand most of it, but I'm impressed. Can I visit your lab? I'd like to see where you work. I responded, lab tours are Thursdays at 2 p.m. You're welcome to join. An email from Margaret. Thank you for making my wedding memorable for the right reasons. Sunday dinner at 6 p.m. Casual. Bring wine. 3 emails from potential donors who'd been at the wedding. And an email from Dr. Elizabeth Warren at the NIH. The buzz from Saturday night has reached DC. Prepare for a very good news phone call on Wednesday. Sarah found me at lunch. How was the wedding? Life-changing. In what way? My father's new father-in-law made a toast about me. Told 200 people that I'd been uninvited to the wedding for being an embarrassment. Then explained exactly who I am and what I've accomplished. Sarah's eyes went wide. Oh my God. The NIH director was there. Half the medical philanthropists on the East Coast were there. Everyone now knows that Robert Thompson's daughter is the neuroscientist he tried to exclude from his wedding. That's amazing. It's terrifying. But also freeing. I don't have to hide anymore. Don't have to make myself smaller. Don't have to pretend my work doesn't matter. It always mattered, Dr. Thompson. I know. But now my family knows too. Wednesday the NIH called. Just as Elizabeth promised. Dr. Thompson, we're increasing your funding by $250 million over 5 years. Your work is too important. We're also nominating you for the Presidential Medal of Science. I sat down. Couldn't speak. Dr. Thompson? I'm here. Just processing. You've earned this. Your tau protein research alone justifies it. But your diagnostic protocols, your clinical trials, your leadership in the field, you're transforming how we approach neurodegenerative disease. Thank you. No, thank you. For the work. For the dedication. For changing medicine. After the call I sat in my office. Looked at the walls. The diplomas. The awards. The photos. Added a new photo to the collection. Me with Charles, Patricia, Marcus and Margaret at the wedding. My new family. The family that saw me. Sunday dinner at the Henderson estate was casual. Jeans and sweaters. Wine and pasta. Dad and Margaret arrived together. He looked nervous. Rachel. Dad. Thank you for inviting me. Charles invited you. I'm just here. Fair enough. We ate. Carefully at first. Then Charles asked about my research. I really talked. Explained the protein aggregation process. The diagnostic markers. The treatment protocols. Dad listened. Actually listened. Asked questions that showed he was paying attention. So when you say, tau proteins, you mean? I explained. Use simple terms. He nodded. And this could actually prevent Alzheimer's? Potentially. If we catch it early enough. If the treatment trials work. We're years away from knowing for sure. But you're doing it. Actually doing it. We're trying. Margaret chimed in. She's too modest. The scientific community thinks she's going to cure Alzheimer's within a decade. Cure is a strong word. Dr. Warren said Nobel Prize. Patricia reminded me. Dad looked at me. Really looked. I'm sorry I missed all of this. The work. The accomplishments. The person you became. You can't miss what you never saw, Dad. Then I'm sorry I never saw you. It wasn't forgiveness. Not yet. But it was acknowledgement. Recognition. The beginning of something real. Marcus raised his glass. To new family. And to Rachel, who's been family all along. We toasted. And for the first time in my life I had a father who saw me. A family that valued me. A place where I belonged. Not because I'd changed, but because they finally opened their eyes. 1 year after the wedding, our phase 2 clinical trials showed success. The Alzheimer's treatment worked. Not a cure, but significant slowing of progression. Quality of life improvements. Hope. We published in the New England Journal of Medicine. Front page. Dad came to the press conference. Sat in the back. Watched me present our findings to the world. Afterward he hugged me. Your mother would be so proud. You think. I know. She always said you were special. I just didn't understand what she meant. Mom said that. Constantly. Our Rachel is going to change the world. I thought she was just being a proud mother. Turns out she was right. We stood there. Father and daughter. Finally seeing each other. I'm proud of you too, he said quietly. I know I haven't earned the right to say that. But I am. So incredibly proud. Thank you, Dad. That was enough. For now. 2 years after the wedding, I won the Lasker Award for Medical Research. The American Nobel. Dad, Margaret, Charles, Patricia, and Marcus all attended the ceremony in New York. When they announced my name, all 5 of them stood and cheered. My family. The one I was born into and the one I chose. Both finally, fully seeing me. 3 years after the wedding, the Nobel Committee called. I won the Nobel Prize in Physiology or Medicine for my work on Alzheimer's disease. The ceremony was in Stockholm. December. Formal wear and international press. Dad was there. Front row. Crying as I accepted the medal. I'm here, he whispered as we posed for photos. I'm finally here. I know, Dad. I see you now. Really see you. I know. And I did. Because seeing isn't just looking. It's acknowledging. Valuing. Celebrating. It took 46 years. A wedding drama. A public toast. A father-in-law who forced accountability. But finally, completely, my father saw me. Not as the daughter who didn't fit his vision. But as the woman who changed medicine. The scientist who saved lives. The person I'd always been. And that was worth everything.